Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, host of the Leaders with Heart podcast. Today, tonight, this morning, this afternoon, wherever in this beautiful planet you may be, I have another yet wonderful, heart centered, amazing leader with a heart for us as a guest, my new awesome friend, Barbara. She's got quite a story. She's amazing. She's um, she's a multilingual person just like me. She speaks three or four languages. She has a master's in three languages in German. She was born in Germany, originally from Nigeria, right? Okay, and obviously English and French as well, which I was very happy because French is my first language, and I don't unfortunately have much opportunity nowadays to speak French. So whenever I meet another French speaker, as we call a francophone, I'm very happy to talk with them in French. So I was very happy to connect with her. We had a awesome conversation last week as well, just before going live in French and English. Unfortunately, I don't speak German, but that might be for later. So we'll. But yeah, she's amazing. She's currently based in Houston, Texas, with a family, with a lovely family. She helps executives with translations and cultural aspects of expatriation. She has developed language program for trainers to use language as a vehicle of empowerment. I really love her tagline, which is enabling as many people as possible to communicate together with each other. So we're gonna unpack all of that. So I'm super happy to have her with us tonight. So Barbara, my friend, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Payman.
Pleasure's all mine. So as I told you before going live, even last week, I like to have a look under the hood to see what's in your heart, to have a heart-to-heart conversation, to get to know you as a person. Are you ready and excited to get started?
Very much.
All right. So for people who don't know you, who's Barbara as a person, as a human being?
Barbara is, first of all, a mom. I'm a very proud mom of my two children. My daughter, she is 16 years old, and my son, he is 15 years old. And I always say, although I'm a teacher and I meet many, many students all over the world, my kids are so amazing that even if they wouldn't be my children, I would love to hang out with them because they are so unique and creative and lovely. Very curious, which I like a lot.
That's
And
amazing.
what else is typical for me, or what else describes me? I call myself Afro European. I have a Nigerian father and a German mom. So, but I'm also Francophile. And as a result, I'm not just Afro German, I'm Afro European. I like
That,
to be as global as possible.
that's amazing. We're going to talk about that because I also have a similar background, Asian, family, and then, I mean, Central Asian, and then growing up in France and now in Canada. So it's always interesting to, when you grow up in two different cultures. So we're gonna talk about that in a moment. But let's continue with getting to know you as a person. Tell us, Barbara, what makes you happy as a person?
Well, it makes me happy to read a good book, listen to some amazing music, instill knowledge in young people or in people in general, connect people on a language basis, on a cultural basis. Just share my gifts with other people and receive gifts from other people makes me extremely happy.
Love that. Wow, we all can only see you're such a powerful, heart-centered person. We're gonna get into that in a moment. So now, tell us also, what makes you smile?
What makes me smile? My children make me smile on a daily
Oh
basis.
yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Now let's take the happiness one step higher. What makes your heart sing? What makes you come alive?
What makes me come alive is when I can help people in need with what I know and what I have. I think that's the most important thing. I really think that's why we have our gifts and talents to bless other people with it. So when I can do that, when I can put a smile on a person's face, then that makes me the happiest.
Wow, love that. That's amazing. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, what makes you sad and angry?
I guess what makes me sad is when I see underprivileged people in different situations, hungry children, um, injustice, brutality. All this makes me almost angry, not just sad, but angry. When people are If I look at the people that have to flee their countries because of the situations they are in, then that makes me angry because it's so unfair. They have to leave everything behind. And when they go to the new countries, they are often not even welcomed nicely. That makes me
Absolutely.
angry.
Yes, absolutely. And that's so sad. I know. Now, what scares you?
What scares me? To leave this earth without having fulfilled my whole potential, not having done everything that I feel called to do. I want to leave a legacy and I feel I'm in the middle of it. Like if I would die today, I would feel like I wasn't done. I would be like, but I wasn't done yet.
No, I'm sure you're far from being done yet. So don't worry. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, maybe in the next 55,000 years from now. But, but you have a lot of, you still have a lot of time here to bless this world with your presence, with your wonderful smile, and with your presence and with the impact you're doing. So I'm
Thank
sure it's going to
you.
happen. Very welcome. Now, what would you? I know you're a very talented person, but what would you say is your number one superpower? Personal
My nu-
superpower.
my personal superpower is that I'm an empath, and so
Mm,
I can really read people even through
okay,
the screen, which is amazing, which I have developed and realized through the pandemic that it even works through the screen. And that enables me to be a better teacher because I can tell what the student specifically needs. And so I can help them no matter what their goal or age is to reach their level.
that's amazing. Wow. Now, you like traveling, right?
I love traveling. I miss traveling.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. What was your very first travel? Do you remember your very first trip?
My very first trip was when I was really tiny to the United States.
Oh wow, awesome.
Yes.
Now, speaking of traveling, I'm going to take you now on a different type of travel down memory line to where you were a young girl.
Hmm.
Remember when we were kids, people around us, family, parents, teachers, relatives always ask us, "So, Barbara, what do you want to become when you grow up?" What was your answer back then as a little girl?
I wanted to be an attorney.
Oh, wow.
I always had a sense for justice. So I was like, if
Okay.
I become an attorney, I can fight for justice on this level. Yes.
Are you a Libra?
No, I'm a Cancer.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's good.
It would fit, right? The
Oh, yeah,
Libra.
absolutely. I'm a Libra, so that's whenever someone mentions that, say, "Are you a Libra?" I wanted to be a lawyer at one point, but I almost became, I almost applied to law
Awesome.
school,
Yes.
but yes,
Yeah.
but
Amazing.
that didn't happen. But anyways, so you said lawyer. Did you have anyone in your family that was a lawyer? Did you have any example, or just wanted to be a lawyer because it was the right thing?
Yeah, because it was the right thing. I always felt like if I use this path, I can help many people. I mean, I'm still in the back of my head, I still have this as an add on to what I'm doing right now because I'm trying to build um, a legacy based on helping people globally. And that's why, in the back of my head, I still feel like I might go back to college and work on a law degree because you can help from a different angle.
Absolutely. Wow, amazing. Now let's stay to when you were a young girl. Do you remember what was your favorite subject in school?
My favorite subject in school, languages and literature. I love
Oh
to
yeah.
read always. Like, I read so many books that my parents had to kick me out of the house. They would say, you need to get some fresh air. So I would go with my book. So then I would
Oh
sit
yes.
in front of the house still reading.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Me when I was a kid, you can find me in two places, either on the football pitch playing football or at the library,
That's the best place in the world, isn't it? The library.
The library or the football pitch. Yes, for me
Yes.
as a boy, that was always what I
Awesome.
was. Yeah. And which would you say was the one subject in school that you really did not like?
Mathematics.
Me too. High five.
High five.
That's awesome. What part of maths you didn't like? Was it the teacher? Was it because it was just I don't know. For me, it didn't make any sense.
Yes, for me, it didn't make a lot of sense, and I didn't like the teacher as well. It
Oh
was a
yeah,
bad combination. And it's really so interesting that you're asking about the teacher because my children right now, they have the same Algebra 1 teacher. My daughter loved her and had an A, and now my son loves her and has an A, which
amazing.
really makes me wonder what if we would have had a teacher like that, because
Absolutely.
both of my kids love it,
I
and that is
used
so amazing.
I the power and influence of a teacher, especially when you're a young child, is very powerful. I remember when I was in primary school, I was good in math, and when I went to middle school, I had a very, I mean, I can't, I didn't, the teacher was not, was very strict and whatever, so nobody liked him, and as a result of that, I completely, phase out, tune out, not even pay attention to math, and being daydreaming, and of course, once you miss the foundation of one class, and it's very difficult to catch up after. So that's why I
Exactly.
never liked math. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Now, let's move forward from the time that you left school to now. Let's talk about your path. How would you describe your path? Would you say as soon as you left university or college, you get in one line, it was pretty much straight forward, smooth sailing all the way? Was it like turns and twists, like a roller coaster all along?
I think the core has always been languages because
Mm,
my reasoning for languages is that I wanted to be as close to my African roots as possible. So I figured out already when I chose my A levels, English and French. If I speak English and French, I can speak basically with everybody from Africa, which worked very well for the rest of my life.
mm,
And since language to me is always a vehicle to communicate, that was the reasoning. So the core of languages was always the same. But at the same token, I guess I had twists and turns because I was teaching abroad, then I taught back home, then I taught in private schools, in public schools on different levels. I'm a very curious person, so I have to try everything because only when you really experience it, you can judge it. I also worked
totally.
for Vitek, I was subtitling, but it's always around language. And I'm also very passionate about grammar. So yes, this is, and I think especially you will understand that well since you're an avid reader like myself. The opportunity to read books in the natural language, in the main language, in the written language, just adds a different level to it. Like, for example,
Totally.
Shakespeare is not the same in a
Oh,
German translation. Moliere just has to be French to really get the jokes, right? Like, you
thank you.
can giggle, and the other person says, that's not so funny. And I'm like, it's not in English, but it's super funny in French, you see?
That's why there's
So
a saying that says lost in translation for a reason.
exactly. That's really true. And I think that's why it was always the core stayed the same, but I did twists and turns, and I always felt that the public school system, even the private school system, deprived the students of a lot of things, which was the main reason why I built my own company to really focus on exactly what they need. Although I've done it in the classroom, I more so focus on it in my private business because I am free. I can literally say, what do you need? What do you want? And I can custom make it. And that's just a great opportunity.
That is so true. Now, I want you, before moving forward, I want to get back to when you were, because you have a fascinating background in youth. So, were you born in Germany or were you born in Africa?
I was born in Germany.
Oh,
My
wow.
father and my mother met in San Francisco
Oh,
and fell in
wow.
love. Yes. And then my mom brought my father back home to Germany where I was born.
Wow. Quite an amazing journey around the world. So, you grew up in Germany. All right. So, when you were growing up in Germany, how, how was it growing under two different cultures, the African culture from your father and the German from your mother? Was that, how challenging was that for you?
Um, it was different because I feel like the African culture is not as strict and verbalized as the German. The German is very much by the book, everything is matter of fact, whereas the African is not. It's just little things like, for example, that Africans really always have a pot of food on the oven. That's typical. Anybody could come
Yes,
by, and
love
there's
that.
always
Yeah, yeah.
food. Yeah, and it's such a rich and welcoming tradition.
Hmm.
Whereas the German side, my mom's side, is really like we invite specific people. Each person has one slice of meat and all the other things. You couldn't spontaneously say, "Hey, mom, I've brought two friends that I met on the way." Then her world would fall apart. It's like, "Oh my God, you didn't inform me. I'm not prepared for it." You see, it's so it's two very different worlds.
I agree. I agree. Yes. So it's also very enriching because you can pick the best of both cultures and whatnot, and you create your own remix, or if you want soup in some way, like cultural soup, not just food but cultural soup, because I went to that as well. Absolutely, I love that. What would you say
Yes.
was the hardest thing to do? Was it adapting to one versus the other, or trying to make it worth between, like, for example, was it difficult for you when you were in school, interacting with the other German kids around you? How challenging was it for you, as a, even though within you were German, but outside you look different? Was that difficult for you at times?
Well, I think I was pretty blessed because my parents raised me very self-confident. They
Okay,
always reassured that I'm worth
awesome.
what I'm worth and that I
Hmm.
shouldn't have any self-doubt. I think that helped me a lot. And then the fact that I was a good student helped me too. So I was
Absolutely.
in grammar school in Germany. So basically all my life I was in grammar school. So I was always with people that were high performing and they have a different approach. I think that protected me a lot. And really, I grew up in Germany. German base was German focus. Like my personality is actually very German. It's really funny. Like when I teach cultural classes and they say the typical German, I can check it off. I'm actually very German when you think about it, although I don't look it, but I really am very, very German because that's how I grew up. I like punctuality. Um, I don't like to talk around subjects. I want to get to the point. Many people say Germans are very blunt, but they just speak their mind. I like it better when you tell me straight away instead of talking around the thing. So
Absolutely.
to me, yes, I would say I was brought up really very German.
That's amazing. And we can see now. So, how about your kids now? Are they more growing up from a German perspective, from an African perspective, now an American perspective, a little bit of everything? Like,
Yes, they are Afro-Euro Americans
wow.
because they have their grandpa's ancestry, but then they are
Hmm.
also Americans because they were born here. And I think they also have the German personality traits because I think it has to do with the moms. That's why we say mother tongue, and I think moms have the initial influence much more than dads can have. I really think so because you're more around the moms. The moms are at home and feed you lunch, and the dads they work more. So I think they have more of those German traits because of it. And then they also lived 3 years in Germany in between. So like when they started talking, they really learned German first, although they are Americans, because when we went to Germany, they were zero. My son was zero, a couple of months old, and my daughter was 2 years old.
Wow.
And so now they speak German without an accent and English without an accent. So it's
So, at
pretty
home, what
awesome.
language do you guys communicate? English, Nigerian, or German, or a mix of everything?
Well, in Nigeria, my father's language is Yoruba,
Hmm.
but I only speak English. We have like I don't know Yoruba, but my kids really, when we came back from Germany, they would always answer in English, but they understood the German. And now all of a sudden, as they are growing older, they are rediscovering their German heritage, and now like now I say things in English and they answer in German.
Amazing. So now, in
Yeah.
your life, where does the French come from? How did you get into the French language?
Well, like I said, I already took my A levels in French. Then I
Oh, okay.
studied in Paris,
Oh,
which
wow.
was amazing. I had like this amazing professor from Senegal, and he taught African poetry, like Senghor, Femme Noire, and he explained it all. And to me, he feels like um, an African Pablo Neruda using many metaphors. And that's like so beautiful to picture it. And the African language is just very, very rich and colorful and with lots of images. And since I'm a visual person, I like that a lot. So
Wow.
that's how I more so fell in love with the language. I always liked it. I took the A levels, I studied it, but then living in Paris just took
Oh
it
yeah.
to another level, because you
Absolutely.
just branched into it. And I was
Immersion.
living in
Yes.
the center. Yeah, I could take the metro from my apartment easily. I didn't have to take an extra bus, so I would go to the Musée d'Orsay once a week because it's so awesome and it's
Oh
not the
yes.
Louvre, it's so unique. And
Mm-hmm.
the idea to have a former railway station turned into a museum was just beautiful. And then I love Rodin. And
Oh yes.
yeah, and the culture, the French culture is so rich. I also love philosophy, so I love Simone de Beauvoir, and of course
Albert
her
Camus, no?
husband, yeah, Albert Camus, Jean-Paul Sartre,
Oh
yeah, and
yes.
so
Monsieur Sartre. How can we forget him? Oh yes.
exactly, and
Oh
so
yes.
it is so rich. How can you not love it?
So when you
Kind
spent
of.
a year in France, were you mainly in Paris or did you live in other parts of France too?
No, I was in Paris because I was a student, so I was going
Oh,
to
okay.
college. Yes, but I
Okay.
did travel other parts of France during the vacation time. So I love the Provence. When I think about French, I always think about the scent of lavender. It makes me happy. It reminds me of the south of France, right? And I'm like, it's everywhere in my house. Everything is lavender. My soap is lavender. Everything
Oh
is lavender,
yes.
and it makes me feel like I'm there.
Did you make it to the southwest of France and the
Yes,
deep south, coast of
yes,
Bordeaux, Pau, Biarritz,
yes.
Bayonne, the French
Yes,
Basque
I did.
Country? That's where I grew up.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I
Absolutely. I
mean,
missed.
every corner has its uniqueness, doesn't it? It's very, very unique. That's what I love about
Absolutely.
France the most, I think. It's very, very unique and very specific.
Did you go to the east side around Strasbourg, Nancy, Metz, close to
Yes,
Germany?
a lot because actually when I studied in Freiburg, I was really close to Strasbourg. So I was there all the time. I was just in the corner of Basel and Strasbourg. So
So is it
I
true that a
was
lot
there
of
all the
people in
time.
that area still speak German there? I haven't been
Yes,
in that
it's
area, but
yeah, it's a real mix because they were always
part,
French or
yeah,
German, and so
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so you can
Wow.
tell by the language and by the dishes also. It's
Oh,
very interesting.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Wow, amazing.
yeah. And then one of my inspirations, Coco Chanel,
Oh
is
yes,
is of course a piece of French and French culture for me.
heritage.
She,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, she's such an
Wow,
inspiration because she was such
wow,
a strong woman too, and
totally,
she had a tough background, but she made it her own, and she's a huge inspiration for me.
absolutely. Wow, amazing. I love having this conversation about France. I miss France. I haven't been in a long
Yeah,
time,
me
but
too. As I
France.
speak, I want to hop on the plane.
There's a song in French. I will just say one little line that says
Okay.
"Douce France, pays de mon enfance." It's by Jacques Brel. It's sweet France, the country of my childhood, of my youth. And I have such amazing memories from France. I grew up. My first years were in France, and that's why France will always be very special in my heart. And that's why each time I speak to a French person, even there's a sporting event I hear La Marseillaise, I feel goosebumps. Like the Canadian national anthem doesn't do anything for me, even though I'm Canadian. But
Yes.
the La Marseillaise gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Even now talking to you, I'm having almost, if I keep on talking about it, I will have tears because it really is so powerful. And I
Yes.
have this connection with France that I don't have with Canada, despite being in Canada. And I'm grateful for Canada. I love Canada, but
Mhm.
you have this thing with, that you can't explain.
Yes. I can totally relate to it. That is so true.
Mm.
Just like Edith Piaf, right? Je ne regrette
Yes,
rien. That's a life motto too. You know,
absolutely.
it is
Absolutely.
so
Wow.
beautiful, and we should never regret anything.
Oh,
I'm a
no.
firm believer in that too, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. That's amazing. Let's move forward now. Let's talk about, there's a saying I'm sure you heard that says, change your story, change your life. And by story, I mean the conversation we have on a daily basis with ourselves. So when you,
Yes.
Barbara, at some point in your life, when you had to change your story to either change your life or bring your life to where you want it to be. How did you do it? Did you do it with help of friends, family, mentors, relatives, books, videos? So tell us how you change your story to change your life.
I think my life story made my story. It's like everything that you encounter, everything and everybody made me who I am, you know? I think that is how I best describe it because, in essence, it's all those little experiences, you know, just like when you talk about France, the experiences that you had there, and like um, I respond very much to pictures, to emotions. French is my emotional language. Like, for example, if I'm mad or if I'm happy, I speak French.
And you
Guarantee you,
curse in
it's
French
really,
too?
really yeah. I would. No, it's really funny. Like my kids know when I speak French, now they are in trouble. I'm really upset, you know?
You know,
My
French
French like
is such a colorful language. It has probably some of the most amazing, what do you call it, slurs or whatever in the world. There was even, I will send you after, a line in one of the James Bond movies. I'm a big fan of James Bond. There was this villain
me
guy, the
too.
bad guy was French. He was talking English, but it came for him to express his discontentment and anger. He was starting all of a sudden to curse in French, like almost for 2 minutes nonstop, just saying all these amazing words. I was laughing so hard.
That's so true. Or like phrases like tu me tapes sur le système. You can't say it like that in English or in German. You know,
No,
to really feel the
exactly.
system, right? You
Getting on my
literally
nerves.
feel it.
Yeah,
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 exactly. But it feels stronger in French, doesn't it? I don't know why. I feel it stronger because it's like you're on my system, like it's stronger in
absolutely.
French.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why
Uh,
French is such a powerful, such a colorful, beautiful, poetic
yes,
language in the world because it's
exactly.
very descriptive as a
It
language.
is. Yes. And that's why the translation just doesn't cut it. You know, the best translator can't
No,
replace the original, at
exactly.
all. Hmm.
Exactly. Wow. Amazing. Whew. Now, let's move forward. Let's talk about your business, what you're doing now. Tell us about what you're doing.
Well, I'm a triple language master supporting busy executives with transitions. That's my main business. I work with a lot of expats and I prep them. Like for example, um, if professionals work for a German company in America and they have to go to Germany to be right there where the company comes from, then I prep the father with business German, the mom with everyday German, so she can go shopping and do all those things. And I prep the kids for the public schools because many families really enjoy the fact that they can go into public schools and really experience the culture and the language. It's a full on immersion and it's the best way for the children as well. And
Wow.
I like that a lot. And on the other hand, if people, for example, come from the Middle East and they don't know English, especially the wives of some of the people, the husbands know it for business, but the wives do not know it, then I teach the wives everyday English, and also I help them to understand the culture because it's very different as well.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. It's not just memorizing some words. You have to understand the culture. That's even more important, especially if you're going to move to a country. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, and sometimes you can be really hurt and it's just a cultural thing, you know?
Totally. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And for example, something that you don't do, something you don't ask. Like for example, I've lived in 10 countries, 4 continents. I'm a bit familiar with all of this thing, but nothing prepared me for when I actually moved to China. No matter how many books I read, how many videos how much studying I did. Sure, it helps you, prepares you, but once you're on the ground, it's completely different. There's so many things I wish I had known, like the proper ways to, for example, and greet someone, proper way to give the business card. Sure, I had read about those, but it's actually you doing it, being immersed in that environment that you really see it makes sense. Absolutely. Wow.
Yes, totally. And even like everyday vocab, like when I came from college and I went to Oxford, I was so self-confident. I could read Shakespeare and I was in the store and didn't know the name for a broom. So that influenced my language teaching also, because I realized like, oh my God, I don't know that, or semantics, that a vocab word doesn't necessarily look the same. Like the American school bus is yellow with those red stop signs. The German school bus looks like an everyday school bus.
Same in
That's
France.
also yeah. And it's like, a French person would never think about a yellow thing, right? A yellow bus with a stop sign for a school bus.
Very
Because
American.
to us,
Seriously, the school
yeah,
bus is very
exactly.
American because there was no such
Yeah,
thing. I remember like a school bus in France. It was just a regular bus that would come and
yeah.
pick us up.
Exactly. You could not tell that it's a school bus at all. It's the
Yeah,
same in
yeah, yeah.
Germany. So those things are very interesting too, because you don't think about it. You're like, okay, now I know ball, but it's not the same, right? Or just like with football, do you mean soccer or do you mean American football, right? It's a different
Exactly.
ball, it's a different game, it's totally different. That is so
Totally.
amazing also, isn't it? Yes.
Totally. Totally. Wow. Now, how long have you been working with helping executives getting ready for their moves overseas?
Well, I've been working in my business on this level for 20 plus years.
Oh, wow.
So for quite a while already. And it's so exciting because it's different companies, different personalities. So it's super exciting to see what they do and where they go. Like I've prepared a lady also who was going to a French speaking African country. So that was very different also, and very exciting. And it's nice to often you stay in touch and you see what becomes of them and the children and things like that. Like this one family that I prepped for Germany, their oldest daughter is now picking German in high school, so it had an
Wow.
impact on her, so she chose that as her first foreign language. So I thought that was amazing. And I prepped her when she was really tiny on her way to Germany, and then she stayed there for 3 years. So that was really, really exciting too. And I also teach language as an empowerment for teenagers because I think they are under so much pressure. And language to me is a superpower they will never lose. And it's something they can pick themselves. Like, for example, I had students that danced at or still dance at the Houston Ballet. And that's why they wanted to learn French because there are
Wow.
so many words in French. So they picked it themselves and said, Mom, Dad, I want to learn French. And then it's
Amazing.
intrinsic.
Yeah.
They really want
Wow.
to do it. Yeah, and for the really little ones, I have an immersion language program with a playful approach where they totally immerse into the language, and I use dolls, so they have to stay in the target language.
Absolutely. Wow. Amazing. It's so amazing because with your answer that you gave, you answered the question I was about to ask you next, which was share with us an amazing example of a transformation from one of your clients. So you already mentioned about the child that picked up, so you're an amazing person to talk to because you almost I don't even have to ask you a question. You answer the question before me even asking it.
Yes, but I had this tiny student who was really amazing also. The mom
Mm,
spoke Spanish and French. The dad had German ancestry.
wow.
And I had an immersion program with him. He was really tiny in diapers. And I would teach him German in the morning, French in the afternoon. And when I left, the after school nanny taught him Spanish.
Oh my God.
And yeah, and since I love music and instruments also, I was playing on a little plastic Fisher piano, and I was singing to him because especially with French, it's so musical. It's lovely to use the singing as well. And so I was singing to him and with him, and all of a sudden he started walking, like he was just using the piano as a walker without me even inspiring him. And when the parents picked him up, they said like, "Oh my God, he's so little. I think he's learning too quickly, because languages have such a big impact.
Powerful.
All the
Very.
things that you grow, it's really amazing. You underestimate it, I think. So that was really exciting also. And I just watched, like, oh my God. But that's the most amazing thing about any person you teach to see the results. Like you said, just like, oh my God, I didn't even expect that. Where is this coming from? Every time, even in public school, when I tested them at the end of the school year, I felt like, I am so impressed by you. I am so proud of you because I always believe every student can do anything. There's no limit to them. If you believe in them, and that's like the math teacher we spoke about earlier on. If you make it fun, if you enjoy it, you instill this love in your students, and they enjoy it then also, I believe.
Absolutely. Language is powerful, even more so for the young ones, because the language can really shape the mind, and the mind of young kids is very malleable, especially at that age. So yes, it's definitely, language is a very, very powerful tool. Absolutely. Wow, that's amazing. So when you're teaching this young child three languages, was it not that too
Mhm.
much for him or her, and getting a bit confused in their mind? So wait, what? Okay. Yeah.
No, not at all. Oddly enough, because
Wow.
I think he associated the languages with the person. So, like,
Ah,
I guess I was probably a funny person because I did two languages, German and French, whereas the other lady only did Spanish, but then his mom also spoke
okay.
Spanish and French. So he was kind of used to it. So, no, it enriched him, but didn't make it hard for him at all, because you really have a corner for each language. That's the funny thing too, because
Yes.
you don't really translate, right? You have your French corner. You, with all your experience in languages, know that too, right? You have a corner, you don't translate. Like when we speak French, I don't think in English, I don't think in German, I think in French, and I feel in French. That's so funny, like when we spoke about France, even when we spoke English about France, I felt French. I had a French emotion.
How different is it thinking in German versus thinking in French?
Well, to me, German is, like I said, matter of fact, like factual things that I describe. I think about German. English for me is every day, and French is like the artsy, beautiful thing. I love art, I love music, I like philosophy, and all that is French for me. Also, the thing, like the way things smell, the way things taste,
Wow.
I feel them French because the words are better, aren't they? Like if you want to describe a dish, you can't do it better than in French.
No, absolutely, absolutely. There's one scene. Do you know Louis de Funès, one of the
Yes, he's
greatest
so
French
funny.
actor? There's one scene
Of
from
course.
one movie called, one of his amazing movies called Le Grand Restaurant, the big restaurant. I will send it to you when he tries to talk in German with the German and a table with an Italian, a Spanish. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
With a mustache that comes in.
yes,
He looks almost like Hitler and all that. And
yes, exactly.
Muscat.
Oh my God.
That's
Yeah,
so funny.
he
Nine
is
nine nine.
so 999. He is so funny. Oh my God. When you just see his face, you have
Oh
to
yeah.
laugh, right? Because he has so much expression on his face, Louis de Finesse. Oh
When we're
my
living
God,
in
I love him.
when we're living in France, we had our uncle that visited us. He didn't speak a word. He was coming from another country. He didn't speak a word of English, French. So
Yes,
even when we were watching the movie, he didn't understand a word of French. He was laughing just by looking at him, his body language, his facial
exactly.
expression. That's amazing. Yes.
Exactly. That's what I feel too. I mean, and his expressions are really French. It's so funny. It's, I mean, it's so amazing. I love that. Yes, he's um, like a French Mr. Bean, like the
Oh,
facial expressions to me.
much better. I would say much better. I don't
Yeah,
personally. I
he
don't
is a
find
lot
Mr.
better.
When I look at Mr.
Yeah.
Bean, I get cringe. I don't laugh because I find him cringy. You know what I mean? I said, oh, it's
He,
almost.
he,
But
he looks a bit annoyed all the time, doesn't he?
yes, he makes me annoyed. Yes, the British sense of humor is not my sense of humor. I prefer more like
Yes.
the subtle, the
Yeah.
French one. But another great
Yeah.
movie
Yeah.
of his is La Grande Vadrouille. I don't know if you know
Yes.
that one, with
Yes.
Bourville trying to cross Paris, France during the
Yes.
German
Yes.
occupation in World War II.
Yes.
I mean, he has
Yes.
amazing movies.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then he has the language with it. Since we are language people, it takes it to a whole different level. I mean, his face is already so amazing, and then when he
Especially first one.
speaks, it's out of this world, right? I
And
mean,
you know
oh
what's
my
even funny
God.
is that even in real life, he's not an actor. In real life, it's even more funny because his wife, his kids, did interviews. In life, it's even worse
Yes.
than that. He actually has to tone it down for movies.
That's amazing. But yeah, because it's so real, it makes sense that his life
Authentic.
is
Yeah.
even wilder.
That's why he's in my opinion, the greatest French actor of all time.
He is
Oh,
so
wow.
impressive. I love him.
For anyone
Just
would
when you say his name, I have to laugh, just because you associate it with so
happy.
much.
For anyone who has no idea, we're talking about probably one of the all-time greatest comedian actors of all time. He's a French actor now. He's no longer here, but amazing. I will put his name, Louis de Funès. Some of them, you will have some of the most
Yeah, Louis
incredible
de
laughs you
Funès.
will ever have. So much that is
Yeah,
gonna
oh my
hurt
God.
your
Yes.
cheeks. It's gonna hurt your stomach because
Yeah,
you're laughing too
yeah.
much.
And he has such an intelligent sense of humor, right? It's
Yes,
intelligent the
very
way he makes
polite.
you
You don't
laugh.
hear him.
Yes,
Well, he
yes.
curses, but not different.
Yeah,
And cursing in
yeah.
French is much, much more poetic than in.
Yeah, exactly. It totally is. It's so amazing. Yes, absolutely.
Wow, amazing. See, that's why it's so good talking to you because we can have. It's very easy to have fun conversation with you, but let's get back to your business now because we're talking about your
Yes.
business. I don't know
Hmm.
how we even ended up talking about Louis Finesse and all that, but hey, that's a different story.
But I don't regret it. It was
Oh,
lovely.
absolutely. Now tell us, how do you get your clients? Do you have a marketing game plan where you run ads? Do you work with a marketing agency? Or you just do word of mouth and referrals?
Word of mouth, referrals. Like I have a lot of students that enjoy my classes and then refer me. And then also when you are in different groups where you gather together and present your yeah, your business. That's what I mainly do. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Now let's move forward and talk about the cause of this podcast. Sorry, the theme and topic of this podcast is causes. What would you say for you is a cause that you're deeply passionate?
I'm deeply passionate about children. I want to empower children. I want to heal children through language, even. That is my heart theme. That's the center of my theme. Like during COVID-19, for example, the abuse behind closed doors, the spousal abuse, and
Oh yeah,
hence also the abuse of children became so much worse. And that was really the inspiration for my immersion kids program, because I felt like they need an outlet, and that often, like in those shelters, there is not really an outlet that is like smart and takes them somewhere else. And I think especially for children, and I did that with my own children too, I feel they need to be children as long as possible, believe in dreams and fairy tales and things like that. That's why, like, when I think about what I do, especially with those little ones, it's a bit like Jasmine, when she's on the flying carpet and they sing the song A Whole New World. I think that's what language is in a way. You open a door to a whole new world where you can leave misery and fear and bad experience behind. And that's why this is the center of my program, of my being, because kids have no influence, and they are not at fault. They are the least protected and endure so much, and that is why they are my number one goal and heartfelt center.
that's lovely. We have something, and I'm on the same page as you. For me, as well as education and kids. For me, you mentioned music. For me, I love music, but for me, it's about sports. I'm a very active guy, especially football. I was a football coach. Growing up in France, my dream was to become a professional football player, like most guys in Europe and Africa, whatever, because football is almost like a religion,
Yes.
especially for boys. But when I had an opportunity a few years ago to work as a professional football coach in China, I said, like, okay, that's a dream come true. I just didn't think about it, even look at the contracts. Okay, let me sign it and just go. And I saw how powerful football can be. Football and sports in general, or some of them. For me, the two best schools of life are sports and traveling, because they really teach about yourself, about the world, and help you grow so much that you can't imagine. Like some of the biggest lessons I learned in life have been either while I was traveling or playing sports, because in sport it's all you learn about teamwork, leadership, not giving up, always fighting for your team, and being competitive. And these skills will help you tremendously in every aspect of your life, especially in your job, business, because this is what life is about. It's like a game, and you have to learn, play by the rules, and you know also find ways to get by the rules without getting caught or whatever. And these are the kind of things that, while still remaining within the realms of the
Yes.
rules, that's what sports and traveling always teach you. So That's why for me it's all about sport. And as I told you, I'm launching my program soon next week actually, and for every person that joins, I will be sponsoring a year of football and sport access to a underprivileged teen and child in India for a year. So that's something that I'm very passionate, and I couldn't be happier. So it's killing two birds with one, empowering and inspiring heart-centered entrepreneurs to find their voice so they can become the leaders and authority in their field, so that they can have the biggest impact possible, while also at the same time, doing good in the world without them doing anything. So that's for me, that I'm very passionate about that. So that's amazing. Thank you for that. I love
I
what you're
love
doing.
I love this so much. Like it is so amazing and it's so meaningful. So I totally love this and I can't wait to join your program and bless
Thank you.
somebody with football as well.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, absolutely, because it's all about empowering not only adults but also empowering kids, especially. Sometimes we can do things that for us is meaningless but can be life changing for someone else. Like for example, $100 for me and you might not be much, and we can spend that without even thinking, just going to the grocery store, buying whatever. But for someone in, say, in Africa, in Central Asia, or in India, that can change their lives, completely.
Exactly.
Imagine this: a year of education, a year of access to sport for $100. That's mind blowing. You can feed
Yes.
someone, give access to someone for like $1 a day. What is $1? Nothing. But for them, it can be the difference
Nothing.
between being on the
But
street and having a
yes,
shot at
totally.
life.
Yes, that is so true. It's such a beautiful way of giving back, like you said initially when we spoke in French, that it's something you can do, that you want to put something in action right then and there, and that's so lovely. I mean, it's
Thank you.
beautiful.
For me, sure, we all need to make money, but let's make money in a way that's impactful, meaningful, purposeful. For me, I
Yes,
started this podcast, this journey a year ago, to build a
yes,
platform to bring other heart centered entrepreneurs to share the stories so that we can inspire others to do good. So that if every single entrepreneur out there were to build a business with a purpose, with a cause, with a mission, each time you do business, you get a client, you sell whatever you're doing, just do something little for you, but that can have tremendous impact for someone else. But guess what? Karma comes back to you 100 folds better, And not only that, when you're having a business that is bigger than just making money, but also helping, you will be a different person. You will be so much more happy, and it's so much more fun. You will feel that, hey, this is my passion. You will feel purpose in your life. You will feel so much more even proud of what you're doing.
exactly. I feel like, yes, this is much more than money can ever buy. The satisfaction of I do something that is really meaningful, it's the legacy. Yeah, the legacy that you really leave behind is things like, I guess, like I initially said, to connect as many people with languages as possible, but also I guess the general goal should be to touch as many lives as possible, you know.
Totally. And also, since I had my spiritual awakening last year since the pandemic, now I don't focus on money. I don't focus on profit. I focus on impact. And when you focus on impact, the money is going to take care of itself. Because what is money? Money is a
Yes,
byproduct of the impact you're having out there, of the differences you're making, of the life you're changing.
yes, exactly. I mean, that is that is unspeakably important and meaningful and satisfying, by the end of the day you feel like I've done something good, I this is something to be really proud of, when you
Gives you
impact a
a
life.
purpose. It gives you a
Yes,
purpose.
yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Amazing. I love that. So, listen, we can talk for an hour. We've been talking for an hour now, but let's start wrapping this up. And I'm going to ask you
Yes,
some rapid fire questions now on
yes.
advices. You ready?
Advices.
All right. What would you say has been so far the best piece of advice you've received?
Never give up on your dreams.
Love that. Who gave you that advice?
I think my parents, they always said
Ah,
like there's nothing you cannot do, you know?
amazing. Now, what would you say has been so far the worst piece of advice you've received?
Like when I initially thought about studying law and my father said, "Oh, that's so tough, don't do it."
Oh, wow. So, did you go ahead with that or no?
I did not. I chose languages, but I learned from it that I would never say that to my own children
Very
because
good.
I feel there is no limit. I see it with my students. I see it everywhere. If you don't put a limit, there is no limit.
Absolutely. Wow, amazing. Now, imagine since you love traveling, I'm going to take you another trip now.
Hmm.
Imagine you have a time machine and
Yes.
you can go back to sit face to face with the 18-year-old Barbara. What would be the number one piece of advice you would give to her knowing all that you know now?
Always follow your heart.
Yes, absolutely.
Always. Because you can do
Absolutely.
nothing wrong if you follow your heart, in essence.
All right. Now, I know you don't have your podcast yet, but we're going to work to get your podcast on. Imagine you have your podcast now, and today, if you're interviewing the most special person in the world, which is you're interviewing yourself.
Yes.
So, what would be the number one question you will ask yourself? You want to ask yourself? Don't think too much. What is the first question that comes to your mind?
What are you most passionate about?
And your answer?
Giving empowerment to people in general.
Yes, absolutely. Love that.
Like unite the world, because we are uniting the world. You're uniting the world with your podcast in such a beautiful way, uniting the world.
Absolutely. Wow, amazing. Thank you. Now, this is a question I want to ask you. This is my favorite question, and I ask everyone is what is the smallest thing you've done that has had the biggest positive impact in both your life and business? And by small, I don't mean something small. I mean the one thing you've done that has had the greatest impact so far.
I think when I started as a young teacher and I asked a student if they understood, and they were surprised, because to me it made total sense that as a teacher you ask if they understand, because otherwise I feel you are obliged to use plan B, C, and D. It's important that not the student even has to go to you, but that the person just gets this feedback right away, because I care, because I'm interested in you. Do you have any questions? Do you have any problems? And I think that's my motto also.
Amazing. Love that. Now, the last question I want to ask you is a question for my benefit. I know you're
Mhm.
very, very, very kind. So I want you to be very honest. I want the German side of you to speak now. I want you
Okay.
to be very direct and don't try to be nice. So do you have any tips for me on how I can improve my podcast?
I love your podcast. I totally love it as a German, French, and whatever feeling and speaking person, because you're so empathetic.
Oh, thank you.
You ask wonderful questions, and it shows that you really care. When I speak to you, I feel like you really care, and I
Oh,
feel
thank you.
really, yes, I feel really treasured and appreciated. So I wouldn't change a thing. Tu es
You're
super.
so amazing. Dankeschön. Dankeschön, mein Freund. Dankeschön. Thank you.
Bitteschön.
Thank you so
Avec
much.
plaisir.
I wish I could speak German because, but anyways, that's
We
probably one
can
of my
still
next.
change that. The next one, the next
Well,
goal.
whenever, I speak 6 languages so far. My goal is to reach 10 languages, and German is probably
Yes.
going to be one of them. And when my time comes to learn German, I know I have an amazing German teacher that I can reach out to.
And it'll be my honor.
Absolutely, absolutely. Wow, amazing. Now, what is the best way if someone wants to connect with you?
Well, you can find me under my name. When you look me up under my name, you can find all my pages. And then on LinkedIn, you can find me under my name, Barbara Ulmer, BU Language and Learning Center.
All right, amazing. So LinkedIn, let me just put this here.
Mhm.
LinkedIn. What was the other one? Your website you said is what?
Yes, my website is also BU Languages.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So, but just under my name, you can basically either under my name or my business name, BU Language and Learning Center, you can find me easily.
All right. I'll put this in the show notes. Awesome. So listen, Barbara, it's been an absolute honor, a pleasure, and a blast talking to you. You're such a wonderful, soul, so positive, so warm, so welcoming, and all that. Such a beautiful presence, wonderful, contagious smile. I salute you. You're a true leader with a heart. Keep shining your light. Keep blessing the world with your presence and with your impact. Stay safe. Stay awesome. God bless you, my friend.
God bless you all. So thank you so much for having me. Merci beaucoup.
De rien. À bientôt. Bye bye.
À
Ciao, ciao.
bientôt. Au revoir.
Bye.